Happy Halloween! For all of November, excluding weekends, I will be posting a new video every day. If you followed me to AO3, you would have already heard all of the fics I'm posting for the next month, but if you haven't, all of it's there. And if you're specifically Rose Petal, you can add it to your playlist. But, look forward to it, I suppose. More Human Than You Know by Cool Kitsune 13, a Batman all media types and Superman all media types fanfic with no rating, with additional tags for Cryptid Bat Family, Cryptid Batman, Cryptid Superman, Horror, Kidnapping, Dehumanization, Crack Treated Seriously, Mild Gore, Kinda, Blood, Alternating POV, Lex Luthor Being an Asshole, Inspired by Tumblr, Author is Sleep Deprived, I wrote this instead of sleeping, and BAMF Dick Grayson. Summary. You misspelled donation 5 times and charity twice. The R goes before I. Clark did not scream, and if he did, it was completely justified, because perched at the end of his bed sat a boy in a gymnastic outfit and a cape. He also had glowing eyes, but at this point, who didn't? My new dad, the Bat, he said that Superman, you, would help me if something ever happened. Clark was in shock. Not only did Bat not tell him that he had a child, but he had told his child that Kent was the emergency contact. Did you know that I solved 3 homicide cases last weekend? Dad said that it's the fastest he had ever seen someone solve 3 cases. We got ice cream afterwards with Mister Martinez as a treat because I did so good. Oh dear golly, this champ's just a kid. AKA, Bat goes missing, and Robin gets Superman to help him find him. It's a slow evening for Superman. There are no civilians that are in need of assistance that aren't already getting some. No cats stuck in trees, Lex has been thankfully quiet, and Bats hasn't texted any notes about the newly formed Justice League. Knowing Gotham, the Bat probably had his hands full already. However, it is a very busy evening for Clark Kent, after a weekend of busy charity galas across all of America and countless interviews. Clark is about to sit down and write his article. It started with a few quotes from Bruce Wayne that were given on Monday. It would take a good chunk of his article. Oliver Queen had given some interesting advice and opinions around Wednesday, which should give Clark a bit of range. And, last but not least, Lex Luthor, the bald man, who seemed interested in torturing people with hair, had caught Clark right before he could leave the Friday night gala, and insisted on donating a statement. He would be given the honor of being seen in the footnotes. Huddling on his couch, surrounded by hand-sewn quilts and a warm cup of cocoa, Clark opened his laptop and began typing away. The gentle patter of rain felt like wrapping a warm blanket around his ears, allowing him to focus solely on his work. He cited things from donation announcements to public tweets. As his article grew, time passed, and while Clark technically didn't need to sleep, it was a habit that he enjoyed. Shutting his laptop and putting his mug in the sink, he drifted into bed. Warm satisfaction accompanied him as he drifted off to sleep. He would spell-check the article before sending it to Lois in the morning. Then he could publish it on Monday before work, just in time for a yearly local parade. You misspelled donation 5 times and charity twice. The R goes before I. Clark did not scream, and if he did, it was completely justified, because perched on the end of his bed sat a boy in a gymnastics outfit and a cape. He also had glowing eyes, but at this point, who didn't? Pulling his covers closer, he desperately asked, "Who are you? What are you doing in my house? Where are your parents?" The child grins, a little too wide for his comfort. "I'm Robin. I'm here because I was told you would help me. My parents are dead, but I have a new dad." This is said in an all-too-cheery tone and makes Clark wonder if Kryptonians can get sleep paralysis demons too. "Oh, I don't know if I'm someone to talk to about that. Who told you I could help?" This boy was in Clark Kent's apartment, not Superman's. "My new dad, the Bat. He said Superman, you, would help me if something ever happened. Clark was in shock. Not only did Bat not tell him he had a child, but he had told his child that Kent was the emergency contact. Did you know that I solved 3 homicide cases last week? Dad said that is the fastest he had ever seen someone solve 3 cases. We got ice cream afterwards with Mister Martinez as a treat because I did so good. Oh dear golly, this champ's just a kid. He tried to put on a gentle, soothing voice. That's so great, buddy. But, can you tell me what happened? He reached over and flicked on his lamp. The child hunched over on his bed had a red and green outfit. It looked like it had started as a gymnastics uniform, but it had been upgraded with elbow and knee pads and other armor. He stank of Gotham's streets. Grime, blood, and all. Turns out his yellow cape wasn't fabric, but wings. Yellow, feathered, fluffy wings that jittered as the boy rambled. His ghostly, pale face still had baby fat. Pale eyes watered as he hiccuped. We were patrolling yesterday, and I went to help a lady cross the street, but when I got back to the rooftop, Dad was gone. And I looked and looked all night, and he wasn't anywhere, and Bunny-Cool is out of town, and Gordon is on summer break. The boy's voice breaks, and he curls in on himself. Clark finds himself stumbling out of bed, and gently hugging the boy. And I don't know what to do. Carting fingers through the boy's messy hair, Superman tries to think of what to do. He's unnaturally cold. As the boy huddles further into his arms, Clark brings his hand up to scratch his nose, but freezes at the sight of blood. Eyes poring over the boy, scanning for cuts and scrapes, he asks, "Hey, bub, did you get an owie anywhere?" A loud sniff comes from Robin before he replies. "No, I just bleed from my head a lot. Dad says it's normal and that he bleeds from the chest when in bat form." Clark doesn't even want to go there right now. He settles for using the back of his hand to scratch the itch. 10 minutes later, Clark has managed to settle the boy onto his couch, with a ratty towel acting as a hood and blanket, swarming him with warmth. He dials Lois up. Hopefully the night owl will be awake. Thankfully, she is. "Hey, Lois. Sorry to be calling so late, but I need a favor." "Depends on what you need." She sounds suspicious. After all, Clark tries to never ask for favors. When he does, they are normally odd. "So I have a..." How does he explain that his superhero colleague's child crashed in his place and needs his help? "A nephew who needs a bit of help right now. It's a bit of a family emergency." Robin's neck turned 180 degrees in order to stare at the journalist. Clark pretends he didn't flinch. "I thought you said you didn't have a brother. Or extended family." Dang it. Why is Lois so smart? It's complicated, but that's besides the point. I just need a day or 2 off. I can be back on Tuesday, I promise. Could you just finish cleaning up my article? All of the sources are there." The other end of the line is silent for a few seconds, and Clark worries he's asked too much, until she sighs. "Fine, but you owe me. You're buying coffee the next 5 times. "Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Lois. You're the best." He pumps his fist in the air, happy that one thing is working out. She chuckles. "Okay, I know. Just send over the article and I'll get it in tomorrow." "Thank you so much. I'll send it right over." He taps his laptop and closes it when the file sends. "Good night. See you on Tuesday." He hangs up and puts his phone away. Robin still hasn't turned back around, instead favoring to stay staring at the adult. It was just a peek, just like that one time with the bat. X-ray vision revealed fully formed wings and a very messed up spine. But other than that, he was normal. By Gotham standards. Sitting down opposite him, Clark begins to explain his half-thought-out plan. "I say we go to Gotham, you show me where Bat went missing. I can go looking as Superman and Clark Kent. While I poke around, looking for interviews, you need to stay close, but in the shadows. I trust you to keep yourself safe, but the person who took Bat might be looking to take you too. Then..." Robin raised his hand. "Yes?" Can I go out in human form? Clark had never considered that Bat had a form that could pass as human. Robin's lip sticks out, pouting. You don't believe me. Here, I'll show you. He curls his fingers in concentration. Loud pops fill the apartment as Robin slowly sits straighter, like one of those string toys that you pull to make the horse stand straight. Color flushes his face and fills his eyes. Wings slowly shrink until they barely peek out from behind his back. His clothes dissolve into a loose white and red shirt and cargo shorts. Suddenly, Robin isn't sitting in Clark's living room. Instead sits the spitting image of Richard, Dick, Grayson Wayne. Clark had given the boy a practice interview, as Bruce called it, a few days ago. If Robin was Dick Grayson, who had recently been adopted by philanthropist Bruce Wayne, does that make Bat Bruce Wayne? He tried to picture the two people as the same person. It made no sense. He'd have to see it with his own eyes to believe it. See, I can do it. We can go as Robin and Superman, and then as Clark and Dick. Okay, we leave in an hour. After packing 2 lunches, water bottles, a cheap camera that Robin had dug out of Clark's old toy chest, Band-Aids, and a pocket knife, Dick did a quick transformation back into Robin, and Superman changed into his suit. They set out. Turns out, Richard loved flying at high speeds. While the boy was too small to fly as fast as he wished, Superman could. Piggyback style, the two flew across the skies, and into Gotham. Giggles filled the air as he slowed down and landed on the second tallest building. Robin jumped off, gliding to the ground. His cheeks were red, kissed from the cold. Superman watched as the boy shuffled over to a large light and flicked it on. Peering back up at the sky, he realized what it was. The bat signal, which meant they were standing on the roof of the GCPD. Superman heard a few people in the building cuss before announcing that the signal had been lit. One man, in particular, was told by a passerby, "Hey, Martinez, signal's up. Get up there before it comes down here." Didn't Robin say something about Martinez? I think I know this guy. Mr. Bat ain't an it. He protects the city. He's got more guts than you do, man. Give him some respect. This was followed by quiet footsteps up to the roof. Superman decided he likes Martinez. Robin was busy surveying the city, wings draped around him, like how Bat does. The rooftop door swings open, revealing a young cop with a mustache. His eyes scan the rooftop before falling on Robin and Superman. A series of emotions flashed across his face, but the main two were confusion and concern. That is, if Superman was guessing right. He wasn't that good at telling what people were thinking or feeling most of the time. Hey, Rob? He gave the kid a fist bump before turning to Clark. Superman? His tone was flat. What's up? I haven't seen the Bat in a bit. Robin began to explain the situation, and Superman decided to try and see if he could hear the Bat. The city was busy, that was for sure. In between drug deals, fading heartbeats, honking horns, and screams, Superman wasn't sure how Bat managed it. Maybe that's why he got Robin. If he focuses, and tries to listen for a wheezing breath, or the sound of his flapping wings, nothing. He must be too far or in the shade. Robin chirps at him, and he turns back to the conversation at hand. It sounds like they were wrapping up their plan. I shouldn't have zoned out. Martinez groans. I'll flip through some security footage to see what I can find. Stay here for a bit while I look. Don't want the guys downstairs to lose it. Text if you need anything. They've already shared contact information before? This rooftop should be good for you guys to chill. With that, the man leaves. Robin turns towards Superman and announces, I'm hungry. Superman digs through the backpack that he had hidden under his cape and hands over a PB&J. They sit on the ledge of the building for a bit, waiting for Robin to finish eating, and when he does, Superman gently wipes some stray jam off of Robin's cheek. The young boy jumps up, spreading his wings wide. Superman watches passively as the boy begins to do cartwheel after cartwheel across the roof. Chirps and whistles fill the air as he continues to demonstrate his circus tricks. Turns out, this kid has no bones when it comes to gymnastics. Pausing for a second, Superman wonders how Richard survived the fall. Clark remembers reading an article about how the 3 Graysons died in an accident, before shortly later reading about the Prince of Gotham adopting a young boy named Richard Grayson. It hurt his head to think about it, like trying to tell which is reality and which is a dream. A few minutes later, Robin's watch beeps. Clark was not aware that the kid had a watch. Skipping over, he announced, "Martinez found something. Come on, let's go down." And with that, he found himself following a young cryptid downstairs into the heart of the police department. While Robin was too young to notice, Clark did. Cops would pause their conversations in the hall in favor of watching the pair walk by. Some even pulled out their phones to take photos. Whispers and murmuring followed them as they passed through. Clark was used to ignoring and pretending to not hear what people said about Superman. Heaven knows he's used to it. But saying those things about Robin? A child? Who was just trying to find his dad? Clark sent them a look before humming at a frequency he knew that humans couldn't hear, but knew that it would unsettle them nonetheless. Walking closer to Robin, with a hand on his shoulder and half covering him with his cape, they made their way to a cramped cubicle that smelled of coffee. The cop looked up, surprise on his face, before he greets, "Hey guys, look here." He angles his monitor towards the two, before continuing. "I managed to dig up the last known security footage of the Bat, from a camera across from the cafe on that block. Great place if you guys eat human food." Sorry, I got off track. He unpauses a corrupted video. "I know that Bat just entered the alley because the feed cuts off, and then turns back on. However, no other camera shows him for the rest of the night, so he never left this alley." He clicks away, moving the video to another camera pointed at the same alley. On the other end, we see this van. It's been sitting here all night, which is weird because everyone knows not to leave your car on the street. It has a license plate too. Also, it's white, and that's a classic red flag. He turns in his seat and points to Robin seriously. "Never get in a white van, even if they're offering you those candies you really like." When Robin nods, he turns back to the task at hand. You can see this car sits there all night, until 5 minutes after Bat enters the alley. Then 2 dudes load something into the trunk, and make their way out of, not just the neighborhood, but the whole city. Unfortunately, we lose track of the car the second it leaves the city. Thankfully, the camera isn't 300 years old, and actually can read the license plate. He zooms in and writes down the plate number, before switching tabs and searching the number in his database. It pulls up an address and a name. Jacob Crowley. He lives in Metropolis City. "Hey, isn't that your city, Soups?" Martinez reaches over and taps at a desk-sized printer. Superman sighs. "Yes." He takes the offered paper, listing all the information on the car. He lowers it so Robin can read. "I and Robin will take up the investigation. Thank you for all your help." The cop stands up from his chair and offers a hand. "No problem. I know what you guys do for us. It's only fair that I try to return the favor. Good luck finding Bat. Oh, and keep an eye on this one. He's a goof." Robin cracks an innocent smile. It was a short flight home, and Superman almost wished he could pause this whole thing and go back to bed, to continue in the morning. He shakes his head. He's gotta find his best friend, and then ask a bunch of questions about the whole dang kid he hid from him, and that he is Bruce fucking Wayne. Soon enough, they landed at a little house on the outskirts of the city. Sure enough, a white van with a matching license plate was parked outside the little yellow house. He could hear a woman and a man talking across the house, presumably a wife and husband. "Jacob, can you grab a wrench? The sink is leaking again." "Sure thing, dear." Touching down on the front lawn, Robin began to creep towards the backyard. Most likely going to slip in through the window or something. Just like his dad. Superman gently placed his hand on the boy's shoulder. "How about you stay out here and wait for me, to see if they know anything?" The truth was that Superman didn't know how he would explain the clearly injured boy to the couple, and that it was for his own good to wait outside. The young boy hummed, "For backup, I'll wait here." Clark beamed and made his way to the front door. A gentle knock on the front door brought a wife to the door, by the sounds of her heels on the tile. A young, red-haired woman in a short green dress answered the door, looking startled at the sight of Superman. He felt a bit of guilt as he heard her heartbeat speed up as she gasped at him. "Hello, miss. I have some questions about the van parked in your front lawn. Is it alright if I come in?" She nodded, before calling for Jacob over her shoulder. She left the door open and made her way to the kitchen silently. The house smelt clean, like a freshly built barn, and new leather. Other than that, it barely looked lived in. Glancing at the carpet, he saw large shoe prints. Looking at Jacob's feet, they were too big. Probably moving workers. They must have just built this house and moved in. They gathered around a wooden table. Taking his wife's hand, she had a freshly polished ring. Jacob prompted, "What questions do you have about our van?" Putting on his dealing with scared civilians voice, Superman explained, "I have evidence and reason to believe your van was in Gotham last night. I also believe that your van might have been used to aid in a kidnapping." Jacob and his wife share a look, and their knuckles whiten. "Was your van stolen or recently lost?" The man let go of his wife's hand to press his palms together, and explains, "I and my wife both work. We work graveyard shifts since they pay the most." He gestures outside. "You see, I haven't touched the thing since we moved here. I used to paint houses and needed a large van for transporting cans and such." His wife confessed, "I saw someone messing with the car last night." She pressed hands to her face and shakes with silent sobs. "They were wearing all black, and I was too afraid to say nothing. I'm sorry, dear." Superman nods in compassion while the couple side hugs. "I can go get the keys if you want to look around, Superman." With Superman's nod, he squeezes his wife's shoulder and says, "I'll be right back, honey. Follow me. They're in the basement." The two get up and leave, giving the woman some privacy to gather herself. It's oddly quiet and loud at the same time. He can hear Robin breathing just outside. The washer and dryer in the basement wash over his senses like a wave. The city sings with nightlife, and the cat in the basement scratches at the wall. Jacob has fallen quiet in their short walk through the kitchen, entryway, living room, and the basement door. They descend the basement stairs, which are shaky and groan with each step. Jacob saunters over to a messy desk lined with loose papers and spare pens. As he looks through the mess, Clark looks around. It's lined with boxes, all still unopened. There's a washer and dryer, but they haven't been turned on. Weird. I swear that was a load going. Shrugging it off, he examines the floor. It's bare concrete, still unfinished, despite the house being new. It's cracked along some parts, especially around the corners. Tar. There's tar. And oil. Dripping across the floor, towards the bookshelf in the corner. The room smells of bat. He was here. Superman's too shocked to hear the wife and Jacob approach from behind. He's too stunned to react to the kryptonite pipe being swung at his head before it's too late. He barely even sees the twisted grins on their lips as his vision blurs and his knees hit the floor. The two watch it twitch on the ground. The pipe had been laid beside it as they radioed in that it was a success. A pool of red was growing around its head where it lay. Clapping fills the room as a man steps in. "Good job. You will be paid handsomely for your work." Lex Luthor descended the stairs in his typical dramatic ways. The couple bow. "You may leave. You should expect the transfer to make it to your account in 3 to 4 business days." They both roll their eyes before sauntering out of the house. Once they're gone, a troop of soldiers file into the basement. Lex stands up from where he's hunched over Superman. "Men, cuff him, secure the Kryptonian in the truck, and take it to Lex Corp. The days of Superman's tyranny are over." He turns around and walks out, towards the empty truck. After a drive that couldn't be slower, curse the evening traffic, Lex found himself standing in a sublevel of Lex Corp Tower. There's 2 cubes placed next to each other, each holding one self-declared hero. He watches as the bat twitches, ears swiveling around as it listens to the noise around it. Finding the bat had been hard. Finding a pattern in its behavior was difficult. Capturing and containing it was near impossible. But that thing was no match for Lex's superior smarts. It was merely an animal that had tricked the people of Gotham, that it was sentient, and thought like the rest of them. Lex was not that stupid to fall for its tricks. At least, that's what Lex thought. The Bat had simply pretended to let himself be taken. It was a last-minute plan, but he had heard Superman discussing the billionaire in a frustrated tone one time. So, he decided, when faced with an opportunity to investigate, he couldn't pass it up. Hopefully Robin got his message before the EMP broke his comms. He tried not to think about it just yet. He trusted Dick to follow protocol and stay home where he was safe during the investigation. Unfortunately, we know what Richard did. You see, while Robin is a trained vigilante and resurrected cryptid, he is also a 10-year-old boy. And sometimes, 10-year-old boys don't have the reason of a 20-something-year-old. As in, Bruce presented Robin two protocols that contradicted each other and left it at that. They were both in the right and wrong in this situation. The Bat had pressed himself to the wall closest to the cube holding Clark. He knew that he was fine. It was only a head wound and a bit of kryptonite. Head wounds bleed more than other wounds. They always look worse than they were. It was because there were more blood vessels in the head. But he still found himself pressing his ear against the glass, as close as he could, trying to hear if he was still breathing, if his heart still beat. Anything, really, that told him that Clark was still alive. His eyes slid from Superman's prone form as the bald man started monologuing. With you two things gone, humanity can finally move forward as a whole. You see, well, you can't. You're merely a thing. You wouldn't understand my reasoning because you don't think. You impersonate and mimic human behavior. His eyes slide to Superman, and the Bat bristles defensively. Just like it. Tonight will go down in history as the day that I save humanity. Bat decided it was time to get out of there. He had gathered enough video footage and evidence to at least drag Lex's sorry button to court. But, first, he needed Lex to leave the room if he was going to get Superman to help him out. Sitting on his back haunches, the Bat waited for Lex to be fully engrossed in his speech. Once the man seemed fully detached from reality and strayed close to the cage, he screeched and pounced, like a cat. He flew across the tiny box and banged against the wall. The man flinched away, eyes burning with rage. He straightened himself, glancing around to make sure no one saw him jump. They were the only ones in the white room. Bruce watched through the sickly green-tinted lighting as Lex's face smoothed into an emotionless mask. The man spat. I have decided to speed up the schedule. First, I'll make you watch as I shoot your friend. And then you, knowing the Kryptonian, I know the thing would consider you its friend. He then turned around and stormed out of the room, completely unaware that he was being manipulated. Now, all he has to do is cut through 2 layers of reinforced glass, haul his unconscious friend along until they reach street level. It should be early morning. The sun will be waiting to heal him. And get home within a time limit of 5 minutes. He pulled out his diamond glass cutter and set to work. The Bat had faced worse odds. Lex's shoes clicked against the floor. 125 clicks a minute, to be precise. He was still finding the mean of employees passing him in the hall. The overhead LED flickered overhead every 6.5 seconds. I must get that fixed. He was exactly 10 steps away from the room that held the kryptonite bullets. He was simply recalling the steps he would need to take after the bullets were used. Dispose of the bodies, plant evidence that suggested someone else had eliminated Superman and the Bat, wait for the news of their passing to reach Metropolis, issue a statement of mourning of Superman's passing, not the Bat, since Lex Luthor had never heard of the Gotham myth, donate a few $1,000s to the memorial, and wait for society to move on. Suddenly, the LED lights flickered 2.7 seconds before they were supposed to. He paused, still reaching for the door handle. They flickered again, and then again, until they shut off completely. A power outage was to be expected when he was running experimental machinery to keep the Kryptonian from hearing the Bat's cry. But thanks to Lex's superior brain, he had thought of that and installed backup generators. They should be turning on in 2 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4... They never kicked on. The hall stayed bathed in darkness and silence. Lex tried to open the door. It has a keycard scanner to open. He had designed his building himself, made with the intention of keeping his projects safe. But with the power out, he was essentially locked out of the room. He turns back around. How Bat or Superman disabled the power? None of his generators were there, and he made sure that none of them had any tools or gadgets. The door at the end of the hall opens and swings shut. There is a steady rhythm of someone walking towards him. It's too dark for him to see, but he reaches for his phone in his pocket. Lex promptly remembers that he leaves his phone in his office on accident in order to prevent anyone from using it against him. He settles for squinting as the person draws near. A silhouette of a small boy approaches him. The boy is hugging himself and whines. "I lost my mommy. Can you help me find her?" Annoying. He's short, probably isn't past elementary school. Lex is busy wondering how he got into the secure complex when the boy goes and tries to hug him. Logically, the first reaction Lex has to this intrusion is to push him away. The boy falls back with a sickening crack, and Lex knows it has to be the sound of bones breaking. I did not push him that hard. But nonetheless, a loud sniffle is followed by a quiet whining. I have to fix this. I don't want him to tattle. Crouching down, Lex extends an arm. "Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. I didn't mean to push you." The boy backs away, arm protecting his face and shoulders shaking. This is an overreaction. The silhouette of the boy scoots away until he's backed into the opposite wall. Lex tries to scoot closer, but his hands are touching something warm and wet. He glances down and sniffs at it. Relying on smell, since sight is out of the question. It smells heavily of iron and must. After a second, it clicks. It's a trail of blood. Looking down was his first mistake, because looking down meant taking his eyes off the boy. Curious to why the boy had fallen silent, he looks back up. Two white eyes peer back at him, inches away from his face. Crawling back in surprise, he tries to evaluate the situation. He was about to eliminate Superman and the Bat, who were incapable of escaping the 10-inch thick reinforced glass. He was walking to the room that held the one thing that would stop the Kryptonian when the power went out. A little boy appeared. He shoved the little boy to the ground, who then started crying. And now, the little boy was an inch away from his face and slowly standing up. He stood lopsided, like his spine was messed up. And Lex couldn't move. Like he was stuck watching some sick prank video, waiting for someone to pop out and say, "Surprise!" The boy strained to lean to the left, and he shifted with another sickening crunch. Like watching an accordion shift around. Wide wings spread out from his back. Blood splattered across the sterile walls as the boy stalked closer. "Why did you hurt me, mister?" It sounded like the question was coming from every direction, taunting him. The thing paused, waiting. Lex realized, waiting for an answer. It grew angry at his silence, resentful, bitter. Its clawed hands reached out and yanked him closer by his collar and screamed. "Why did you hurt me? What did you do to Superman? And why did you take my dad?" Its face was so close, it was almost touching his. Lex could hear his heart thundering in his chest, for the first time in his life. He felt blood rushing through his head as he tried to think of something that wasn't spit splattering across his cheek as it screeched. "How dare you treat us like animals, while we have more compassion and love than you ever will?" The lights overhead burst like thunder, glass pouring down around them like rain. Everything came to a stop. 1 minute, the thing was screaming in his face. The next, he fell lax and everything faded to black. The Bat was panicking. He had only gotten himself and Superman out of the cages when the lights shut off. Not just the lights, the whole power. It was a risky but smart move. The doors were locked through electricity-run locks. They couldn't open it, there was no power. Lex didn't seem like the type to take that risk. But a desperate man was a dangerous one. Shouting had filled the hallways as he made an attempt to kick the door down, knowing better than to waste time picking the lock. Superman was laid down in a sloppy rescue position, having only started to wake up. It took 7 kicks for him to take out the door, and then they were off. He remembered which way he was dragged down the halls. 2 lefts, 3 rights, a left, then another right, before they would make it to the stairs. He's only halfway there before he's heaving for breath. Rounding a corner, he adjusts Superman and tells him to keep going when he spots Robin's signature yellow, red, and green. Robin, his son, is hunched over an unconscious Lex Luthor. His guts twist in guilt and horror as he realizes his son must have tracked him here, all the way from Gotham. His son spots him, and is at his side in an instant. They continue making their way to the exit. A quick glance confirms that Lex is still breathing. His people will find him sooner or later. Robin, report. When you went missing, I initiated Protocol 36. I made my way to his house and explained the situation. We made our way to the GCPD, and Agent M provided assistance finding the white van that we assumed took you. We tracked the address to a house in the city where Superman was also abducted. I followed from a distance to Lex Corp and made my way to where they were keeping you. When I ran into Luthor, I cut the power and talked with him before you arrived. He got too scared of me and passed out due to shock. Bruce was willing to ignore that by talk, Richard most likely meant chew out. Robin then continued. I have no injuries other than a sprained stomach. I think you know the protocol for that, Bat. Bat shook his head as the younger cryptid requested that they go and find a popsicle stand in the Narrows to remedy his injury. Bat agreed. The kid deserved it. The team had made their way to the Manor immediately. Bat had sent a reluctant Robin into the Manor to find Alfred, who had just returned from his trip of dealing with the loose ends, as the youngsters call it. Bat had refused to let Clark out of his sight, and the Kryptonian refused to budge from his spot in the sunny lawn. 3 hours later, when each of them had been checked for injuries and given a proper meal, they still sat out on the lawn, eating their own respective popsicles. Clark chose strawberry, while Bruce stuck to mango. Richard had chosen the suggested one, cotton candy. Alfred had refused to let them get the popsicles themselves, since the butler didn't trust them to not get themselves into trouble. He had insisted on getting them while they recovered from their field trip. It had taken an hour and 36 minutes of sunbathing for Clark to recover from his concussion and return to normal. When he did, the next hour and 24 minutes were spent practically glued to Bat's side. Robin had brought out a pile of blankets and pillows, while Alfred wasn't there to stop him. A nest was quickly assembled, fast enough for concussed Clark to find it funny. He murmured about Richard and Bruce being actual birds until he had fallen asleep in the pile. Bruce and Dick were quick to join him in sleep. When Alfred found them, asleep in the blanket nest, he had silently taken a photo and gone back inside. No one commented when the photo appeared on the fridge next to Dick's A+ math test. Clark gets all the way home that evening when he remembers all the questions that he had for Bruce. He then had to wait until the weekend to drive up to Gotham to ask Bruce. Lois worried that Clark had gotten ghosted by a partner, as the man refused to say why he was so glum all week. Notes. My goal with this was to prove that, while others think that Superman, Robin, and Bat are different than human, they are not. They sleep, eat, and need as much love as everyone else. So, if you ever find yourself thinking, oh, that person's weird, I don't like them, you need to stop and recognize that you are thinking that. I'm not asking you to become best friends with them, or even just friends with that person. I am asking you to treat them just like how you would treat the next person. I also wanted Robin to scare the crap out of Lex Luthor, because the Superman movie was great. Toss that man in the blender for a bit. What do you all think? I made them a bit more human, but only for this one. This is part of Under the Tar and Oil. It's part of a series. This is part 9 in that series. I haven't read the rest of it. I've only read this. Which, awful, terrible, I'm fully aware. If you guys would be interested in me reading the rest of it, I can do that. A lot of them are pretty short, so I would be able to do, like, one video covering a good amount of them. If you guys would be interested in that, I can talk to the author and see about doing that. What are you doing? Hi. She scampered over here and she peeked around the corner at me. Hey. My man got fucking Jurgen Leitnerd. How fruity do I want to make this man? He turns around and walks. Jesus Christ. No, you didn't. You underestimate Batman. He's such a man-child.